Why so many tattoos, lady? The question echoes across the crowded naval base bar, slicing through conversations like a blade. 20 pairs of eyes turn toward the entrance where a woman in a plain gray t-shirt stands motionless, her arms covered in dark ink that catches the dim yellow light. Jack Roderick leans back in his chair, a smirk spreading across his face as he gestures with his beer bottle toward the newcomer. The seal insignia on his jacket gleams, polished to perfection, a badge of honor he wears like armor against anyone who might question his place in this world. You here to serve drinks or scare people with those Halloween decorations? Laughter ripples through the table of young SEALs surrounding him. 4 men, fresh from afternoon training, their confidence inflated by Roderick's approval. They watch him like disciples watching a prophet, eager to mirror his contempt. The woman walks to the bar without acknowledging them. Her movements are deliberate, unhurried, each step placed with a precision that seems almost mechanical. She orders water, just water. No alcohol, no mixer, nothing that might dull whatever sharpness lives behind those steady eyes. Roderick pushes himself up from his chair, sensing an opportunity. He thrives on moments like these, public stages where he can perform his dominance for an audience that will remember and repeat his victories. His record speaks of excellence in combat, but his reputation speaks louder of something darker. Arrogance that borders on cruelty. A discharge from a classified mission for what the official report called lack of discipline, but what whispered rumors called something far worse. He approaches her position at the bar, close enough that she can smell the beer on his breath, close enough that his shadow falls across her shoulders. I asked you a question, sweetheart. She does not turn, does not flinch, does not offer him the satisfaction of acknowledgement. Each tattoo a different boyfriend who dumped you? He raises his voice now, performing for the crowd. Must have been a lot of bad decisions to fill up both arms like that. The bar erupts in laughter. Someone slaps a table. Someone else whistles. The sound fills the space like poison gas, suffocating any chance of dignity the moment might have held. At a corner booth, a man in his mid-50s sets down his whiskey glass with unusual care. Lieutenant Colonel Leon Hart has seen 3 decades of warfare, has buried more friends than most people make in a lifetime, has earned every gray hair on his weathered head through sacrifice and loss. Tonight, he came to this bar seeking nothing more than quiet and forgetting. Instead, he finds his attention locked on the woman at the counter, on the black Roman numeral etched into the skin at the base of her neck. 13. The number burns into his vision like a brand. His hand trembles slightly as he lifts the glass again, unable to drink, unable to look away. The woman finally turns her head, just enough to meet Roderick's eyes. Her face remains expressionless, a mask of controlled neutrality that reveals nothing of whatever storm might rage beneath. You wouldn't understand the answers. Her voice carries no anger, no defensiveness, just statement of fact, flat and final as a closed door. Roderick's smirk falters for half a second before hardening into something uglier. He does not like being dismissed, does not like the implication that he lacks the capacity to comprehend anything this unremarkable woman might offer. Try me. He steps closer, invading her space. I've got all night and nothing better to do than listen to whatever fantasy you've cooked up to justify looking like a biker's coloring book. One of his followers pulls out a phone, angling it to capture the confrontation. Content for their group chat, evidence of their leader's dominance over yet another nobody who wandered into territory where she did not belong. The bartender, a retired Navy chief named Patterson, watches the scene unfold with growing discomfort. He knows Roderick's type, has served drinks to 100 men just like him over the years. Dangerous not because of their strength, but because of their need to be seen as strong. He considers intervening, weighs the cost of challenging a customer against the cost of allowing this to continue. He stays silent. Everyone stays silent. The woman stands alone against the tide of mockery, and the bar holds its breath to see what she will do. She does something unexpected. She breathes. A slow, measured inhalation lasting 4 counts, a hold lasting 4 more, an exhalation stretching 4 beats longer. The rhythm of it seems almost ritualistic, a practiced calm that speaks of training far beyond anything a civilian might possess. Hart notices. His grip tightens on his glass until his knuckles turn white. He has seen that breathing pattern before, in places most people will never know exist, among operators who faced death so regularly that they learned to make peace with it between heartbeats. Roderick notices too, though he interprets it differently. To him, the breathing looks like fear. like preparation for surrender, like weakness seeking a center that will not hold. "What's wrong, Ink Lady? Need a moment to compose yourself?" He turns to his audience, arms spread wide. "Looks like our decorated guest here needs a minute to figure out her story." "Leave her alone, Jack." The voice comes from an unexpected source. A younger seal at Roderick's table, barely 25, his face still soft with remnants of the boy he was before training hardened him into something else. He looks uncomfortable, shifting in his seat as if the leather has suddenly grown too hot. Roderick spins toward him, the humor draining from his expression. "Did I ask for your input, Novak?" "No, but maybe we should just..." "Should what?" "Let every random woman walk into our bar and pretend she belongs? This is a place for warriors, not whatever this is." He gestures dismissively at the woman's tattoos. Someone needs to remind people of standards. Novak falls silent, properly chastised. The others at the table avoid his eyes, unwilling to associate themselves with his moment of conscience. The hierarchy reasserts itself and Roderick returns his attention to his target. "So where were we?" "Oh, right. You were about to explain why you thought turning yourself into a walking mural was a good life choice." The woman takes another sip of water. Her calm seems infinite, untouchable, a fortress built from something Roderick cannot identify and therefore cannot breach. It infuriates him. "Fine. You want to play silent? Let me guess then." He circles her slowly, studying the ink that covers her arms. "This one looks military, probably fake, something you found on the internet to make yourself seem interesting. This one with the lines, what is that? Abstract art? Very modern, very meaningless." He reaches out as if to touch her arm, and the shift in her posture is immediate, subtle, almost invisible, but unmistakably a preparation for something. Her weight redistributes, her shoulders drop slightly, her hands remain loose at her sides but somehow ready. Hart rises from his booth. He moves without thinking, drawn by an instinct older than reason. Something is wrong with this picture. Something is very, very wrong, and he needs to understand what before the situation spirals beyond recovery. Roderick's hand hovers an inch from her skin. He hesitates, suddenly uncertain, reading in her body language a warning his conscious mind refuses to accept. "Go ahead," she says quietly. "Touch me. See what happens." The challenge hangs in the air like smoke. Roderick's followers exchange glances, their phones still recording, their loyalty to their leader warring with a growing sense that they might be witnessing something other than entertainment. "Is that a threat?" Roderick laughs, but the sound comes out hollow. "Are you actually threatening a Navy SEAL in a room full of Navy SEALs?" "I am telling you what will happen if you put your hands on me without consent. That is not a threat. That is information." Patterson, the bartender, finally moves, wiping down the counter closer to the confrontation, positioning himself to intervene if necessary. He has seen enough bar fights to recognize the precipice they stand upon. "Maybe everyone should take a breath," he suggests carefully. "Long day, hot tempers, no need for anyone to do something they will regret." Roderick ignores him. His focus has narrowed to the woman before him, to the challenge she represents, to the public humiliation he will suffer if he backs down now. Pride has always been his weakness, the crack in his armor that lets darkness seep in and poison his judgment. "You know what I think?" He steps back, creating distance but not retreat. "I think you are a fake. I think those tattoos are costume jewelry for attention seekers. I think you have never served a day in your life and you wandered in here hoping some real warrior would notice you and make you feel special. You can think whatever you want. But you cannot prove me wrong, can you?" Triumph flickers in his eyes. "Because if you could, you would have said something by now. You would have shown credentials, pulled rank, done something other than stand there breathing like a yoga instructor having a breakdown." If you are curious what those tattoos really mean, hit that subscribe button and stay with us. This story is just getting started. The woman sets her water glass on the counter. The soft clink of glass against wood somehow silences the room more effectively than any shout could have. She turns to face Roderick fully for the first time, and something in her expression makes several people step backward without realizing they have moved. "You want to know what these tattoos mean?" "Finally," Roderick spreads his arms in mock welcome. "Please, enlighten us. Tell us all about your deep and meaningful body art." She rolls up her left sleeve slowly, deliberately, exposing the first piece of ink in its entirety, a series of parallel marks crossing each other, with a date inscribed below in small, precise numbers. Kandahar province, 3 years ago. Her voice remains level, almost clinical. Our convoy hit an IED. The blast collapsed the road into an underground tunnel system. 10 soldiers went down with the debris. The laughter dies. Someone coughs nervously. The phones keep recording, but the atmosphere has shifted from entertainment to something else entirely. I was the only one who crawled out. Roderick's smirk wavers. Nice story. Anyone can make up a story. She moves to her right forearm where a circular symbol sits broken, its arc incomplete. Echo 13. Support mission in a valley that does not appear on any public map. We were providing cover for an extraction team when the intel turned out to be compromised. The entire unit was lost. Echo 13. One of the younger SEALs frowns. I have never heard of that designation. You would not have. The unit was erased from official records within 24 hours of the incident. I was the last support element still alive when extraction finally arrived. The room has grown very still. Patterson has stopped pretending to wipe the counter. Hart has stopped halfway between his booth and the bar, frozen in place by words that cut too close to memories he has spent years trying to bury. Roderick feels the shift in the room and hates it. He has lost control of the narrative, lost his audience to this woman and her impossible claims. His mind races for a way to regain dominance, to dismiss her words as fabrication before anyone starts believing them. This is ridiculous. He forces a laugh that convinces no one. You expect us to believe you survived not one but 2 operations that conveniently cannot be verified? That is not a military record. That is a screenplay. I did not ask you to believe anything. You asked what my tattoos mean. I am telling you. Keep telling then. This fiction is getting good. But his voice has lost its cutting edge. Uncertainty has crept in, softening his contempt into something that looks almost like fear. The woman turns, and for the first time, the crowd gets a full view of the ink that covers her back. Through the thin fabric of her shirt, the largest piece is visible, a broken cross surrounded by 12 dots arranged in a specific pattern that makes Hart catch his breath audibly. She lifts the hem of her shirt just enough to expose the tattoo completely. Operation Cold March, 12 operators, a mission that was supposed to be routine recon. Instead, we walked into an ambush that someone on our side had arranged. Cold March. Roderick's face has gone pale. That is not... That mission never existed. That is conspiracy theory nonsense that floats around message boards. Is it? Hart finally speaks, his voice rough with emotion he cannot hide. I have heard of Cold March. Every head turns toward the veteran. He stands in the middle of the bar like a statue carved from grief, his eyes fixed on the woman with an intensity that borders on desperate. It was classified above any level most people in this room will ever touch. A joint operation that went wrong in ways that were never explained. The official story was training accident. The unofficial story... He trails off, unable to continue. The unofficial story, the woman finishes for him, was that someone inside the unit sold the operational details to hostile forces. The ambush was waiting for us before we even crossed the border. 12 good soldiers walked into a trap designed by someone who knew every detail of our movement. Roderick takes a step backward. His retreat draws surprised looks from his followers, who have never seen their leader give ground to anyone. You cannot prove any of this. Words are just words. I was not finished. She turns to face him directly, and now there is something in her eyes that was not there before. A cold fire, burning slow and steady. I survived Cold March, barely. I spent 3 months in a hospital that does not officially exist, being treated for injuries sustained during an extraction that was never supposed to happen. When I finally recovered enough to ask questions, I was told that the investigation had been closed. Insufficient evidence. No suspects. Case filed and forgotten. Then why are you here? Why come to a bar full of SEALs if you have such a grudge against military operations that failed? I never said I have a grudge. She picks up her water glass, takes a slow sip, sets it down again. I said someone betrayed us. I said 12 good soldiers died because information ended up in the wrong hands. I said the investigation was closed. So? I did not say I stopped looking for answers. The implications settle over the room like a physical weight. Roderick's followers exchange nervous glances, suddenly uncertain whether they are witnessing a conflict or an unmasking. The phones that were recording entertainment now capture something far more dangerous. Hart moves closer, his eyes still fixed on the broken cross tattoo. That symbol, the 12 dots, that was their unit marking. Bravo 13. They called themselves the Apostles. You know about them? Roderick's voice pitches higher than he intends. How do you know about them? Because my daughter was one of them. Hart's words fall like stones into still water. She died in Cold March. They never found her body. They never found any of the bodies. Silence crashes through the bar with the force of a wave breaking against rocks. Roderick stands frozen, his arrogance stripped away to reveal something small and cornered underneath. The woman at the counter remains motionless, but her attention has shifted entirely to the veteran who just revealed a connection that changes everything. Your daughter. She speaks softly now, her clinical detachment cracking for the first time. What was her name? Sergeant First Class Miranda Hart. She was the youngest member of the unit, 26 years old. She called me the night before they deployed, said she could not tell me where she was going but that she loved me and she would see me in 2 weeks. Miranda. The woman closes her eyes briefly. She sat next to me on the transport. She was nervous about the mission, kept checking her gear. I told her that nerves were good, that they kept you sharp. She laughed and said her father always told her the same thing. Hart makes a sound that is not quite a sob. His hand reaches out, grasping the bar for support as his legs threaten to give way beneath him. You knew her. You actually knew her. I was with her when... The woman stops, composes herself, starts again. I was the last person to see her alive. She was covering my position when the second wave hit. She told me to run. I did not want to leave her. She ordered me to go. She ordered you? Your daughter outranked me on that mission. She was team lead. Her last order was to ensure that someone survived to tell the truth about what happened. What did Miranda want the world to know? Comment your thoughts below. This revelation is only the beginning. Roderick has backed himself against a table, his confidence completely evaporated. Something about this exchange has rattled him far beyond what the situation seems to warrant. His eyes dart between the woman and Hart, calculating risks that only he can see. This is insane. His voice has lost all its mocking quality. You show up with some tattoos and a sad story, and suddenly everyone believes you were part of some secret martyred unit? Where is your proof? Where are the documents, the medals, the anything? You seem very concerned about proof, Lieutenant Roderick. The woman's use of his rank makes him flinch. I never mentioned who I was looking for. I never mentioned what kind of answers I needed. Why does the idea of proof make you so nervous? It does not make me nervous. I'm just pointing out the obvious holes in your story. What holes? I have not made any claims about anyone in this room. I have only described my own experiences and my own losses. Why would that threaten you? The question hangs in the air, unanswered and unanswerable. Roderick's followers have begun to edge away from him, creating subtle distance that speaks louder than any accusation. Loyalty has its limits, and the scent of something rotten has begun to permeate the atmosphere. Hart straightens up, drawing on reserves of strength that grief had nearly depleted. His gaze sharpens as it moves from the woman to Roderick, seeing something he had not noticed before. She asked you a question, Lieutenant. Why does her story make you so uncomfortable? It does not. I just do not like liars. She has not lied about anything. You have been attacking her since she walked through that door. And for what? Because she has tattoos? Because she is a woman in a military bar? Hart's voice rises with each word. Or because something about her existence terrifies you for reasons you cannot explain? I am not terrified of anything, old man. Especially not some ink-covered nobody who wandered in off the street. Then prove it. The challenge comes not from Hart, but from the woman herself. She has moved away from the bar, positioning herself in the center of the room where everyone can see her clearly. Her posture has shifted again, no longer passive, but not yet aggressive, waiting, ready. Prove I am lying. Call your contacts. Check the classified databases you all pretend you do not have access to. Find out if Cold March was real. Find out if Bravo 13 existed. Find out who survived and who did not. I do not have to prove anything to you. No, you do not, but you want to. You want to so badly that you are shaking. She tilts her head, studying him with the detached curiosity of a scientist examining an interesting specimen. What are you afraid they will find, Lieutenant? Roderick's hand moves toward his belt, where a utility knife hangs in a standard-issue sheath. The motion is subtle, unconscious, a reflex born from stress and fear rather than deliberate intent. But several people notice, including Hart, including Patterson, including the woman who has been watching his every movement since he first opened his mouth. Careful. Her voice drops to barely above a whisper. Whatever you are thinking about doing right now, I promise you it will not end the way you imagine. Is that another threat? It is the same information I gave you before. An action and its consequence. The choice remains yours. Novak, the young SEAL who spoke up earlier, pushes back from the table and stands. His face has gone pale, his earlier discomfort transformed into something closer to horror as he watches his mentor spiral toward violence. Jack, stop. Whatever this is, it is not worth it. Sit down, Novak. No. The word surprises everyone, including Novak himself. He swallows hard but does not retreat. This has gone too far. We came here to drink after training, not to whatever this is turning into. What it is turning into is a lesson. Roderick's voice has gone cold. Some people need to learn that they cannot walk into places where they do not belong and start making accusations. She has not accused anyone of anything. Hart steps forward, putting himself partially between Roderick and the woman. She has only told her story. The only person who has interpreted that story as an accusation is you. The observation lands like a blow. Roderick's face contorts, his control slipping further with each passing second. The room can feel violence building in him like pressure in a sealed container, seeking any crack through which to escape. I want her out. He points at the door without taking his eyes off his targets. I want her gone from this bar, and I want everyone in here to forget this conversation ever happened. That is not your call to make. Patterson speaks up from behind the bar, his voice carrying the authority of a man who has faced far worse than an angry SEAL. This is my establishment. She has paid for her drink and broken no rules. If anyone should leave, it is the person threatening violence. You are taking her side? I am taking the side of not having my liquor license revoked because someone decided to start a fight in my bar. Stand down, Lieutenant. Walk away. Sleep it off. Tomorrow this will all seem like a bad dream. For a moment, it seems like Roderick might actually listen. His hand moves away from his knife. His shoulders begin to relax. The room exhales collectively, believing the crisis has passed. Then the woman speaks again. Miranda Hart told me something before she died. Roderick freezes. She said that if anyone survived, we needed to find out how the enemy knew exactly where we would be. She said the intel leak had to come from inside. Someone on our side gave them everything. Our route, our timing, our extraction points. Someone who knew all the operational details. Stop talking. She said there was only one person outside the unit who had access to that information. One liaison officer who handled the coordination between our team and command. She did not know his name, just his call sign. I said, stop. Viper. The woman's voice does not waver. The liaison's call sign was Viper. Miranda said she would recognize his voice anywhere, that she heard him on the radio right before the ambush started. He was giving coordinates, not to us, to them. Roderick's face has gone from pale to gray. His hand returns to his knife, no longer a subconscious gesture but a deliberate motion. His followers have scattered to the edges of the room, putting furniture and distance between themselves and whatever is about to happen. You have no proof. His voice emerges as barely a whisper. You have nothing but the dying words of someone who could have been hallucinating, confused, saying anything. I never said I had proof. I said Miranda told me what she heard. I have spent 3 years looking for Viper. 3 years tracking every lead, every rumor, every thread that might connect to the man who betrayed us. And tonight, I found him. The words fall like a hammer. Roderick's hand closes around the knife handle. Hart moves to intercept, but his aging body cannot match the speed of a trained operator. Patterson reaches for something beneath the counter. The young SEALs scramble toward the exits. The phones keep recording, capturing everything. Time seems to slow as Roderick pulls the blade and lunges toward the woman who has just accused him of treason. His form is perfect, his training evident in every motion. He is fast, he is deadly, and he is absolutely certain of his kill. He is also absolutely wrong. The woman does not run, does not scream, does not freeze. She shifts her weight to one hip, pivots on her back foot, and catches his knife arm at the wrist with a grip that speaks of countless hours of combat training. Her other hand finds his elbow, applying pressure at an angle that leverages his own momentum against him. In less than 2 seconds, Roderick is face down on the bar counter, his arm twisted behind his back at an angle that promises agony if he moves. The knife clatters to the floor, spinning away into shadows. He gasps, more from shock than pain, unable to comprehend how quickly his attack was neutralized. "I told you." The woman's voice remains calm, almost conversational. "I told you exactly what would happen if you tried." Hart stares at the scene with tears streaming down his weathered face. He has seen that technique before, has watched it executed in training facilities that do not exist on any official base. Only one unit was trained to perform it with such precision, such efficiency. "You," his voice breaks on the word, "you are Battle Saint." The name ripples through the room. Those who have heard the legend turn to stare. Those who have not exchanged confused glances, sensing that something momentous has occurred without understanding its significance. The woman looks up, meeting Hart's eyes while keeping Roderick pinned beneath her. "Your daughter gave me that name. She said I was the only person she ever met who could take a bullet and keep praying for the shooter. She talked about you." Hart's legs give way, and he sinks into the nearest chair. In her letters, she never used names, but she described someone she trusted completely, someone who never lost faith no matter how bad things got. Miranda was the one who never lost faith. I just tried to live up to her example. Roderick twists beneath her grip, and she adjusts her hold with casual expertise. "Let me go. This is assault. I have witnesses." "You have witnesses to your own assault with a deadly weapon." Patterson has emerged from behind the bar with a phone in his hand. "I have already called military police. They will be here in 5 minutes." "This is insane. I am a decorated SEAL. She is nobody. Who are they going to believe?" "That depends." The woman reaches into her pocket with her free hand, pulling out something small and fabric-based. A piece of cloth, weathered and stained, bearing an emblem that makes Hart gasp audibly. "They might believe the DNA evidence I have been carrying for 3 years, the patch I found on the body of the man who led the ambush team, the patch that military forensics matched to someone currently serving in the Navy." She drops the patch onto the counter beside Roderick's face, forcing him to stare at it. "They told me the DNA results were inconclusive. They told me the evidence was insufficient for prosecution. They told me to move on, to heal, to accept that some questions never get answered." Her grip tightens slightly, drawing a grunt of pain from Roderick. "They did not tell me to stop looking." That proves nothing. It proves that someone at the ambush site was wearing a patch identical to the ones issued to naval liaison officers. It proves that the DNA on that patch belongs to someone with access to classified operations. It proves that Miranda was right about Viper. 3 years of searching led to this moment, like the video to show your support, and stay tuned. The truth is about to come out. The sound of sirens grows in the distance. Military police responding to Patterson's call, coming to sort out what will undoubtedly be reported as a bar fight that got out of hand. They do not yet know that they are about to stumble into the aftermath of something far more significant. Roderick has stopped struggling. His face pressed against the bar counter, he stares at the patch with eyes that have finally accepted the magnitude of his exposure. Years of careful concealment, of strategic positioning, of ruthless elimination of threats, all undone by a woman he dismissed as a nobody with too many tattoos. "You cannot prove it was me." His voice has gone flat, empty of the arrogance that defined him just minutes ago. DNA on a patch does not prove anything about Cold March. No, it does not. But it will be enough to reopen the investigation, enough to start asking questions that were never asked before, enough to make people look at you with new eyes and wonder what else you might have done. "I will deny everything. You can try. You have attacked me in front of witnesses. You have demonstrated violent behavior triggered by mention of a classified operation you claimed did not exist. You have given military investigators every reason to dig deeper into your past." Hart rises from his chair, moving closer to look down at the man who may have killed his daughter. His face shows no anger, no hatred, only a grief so profound that it seems to age him years in seconds. If what she says is true, he cannot finish the sentence, cannot put into words the enormity of what Roderick might have done. It is true. The woman's voice softens for him alone. "I am sorry you had to find out this way. I spent months trying to figure out how to tell you without causing more pain. There is no version of this truth that does not destroy something precious. Miranda trusted him. Hart's voice is hollow. She mentioned her liaison officer in her letters, said he was efficient, professional, said she felt confident that their coordination was in good hands. He was good at his job, that was the problem. He was so good that no one suspected him until it was too late. The sirens grow louder, red and blue lights now visible through the bar's windows. Roderick makes one last attempt to break free, but the woman's hold does not waver. She is trained for moments like this, has prepared for the possibility that Viper might not surrender quietly when finally cornered. Why now? Roderick's question comes out strangled, desperate. Why wait 3 years? Why come after me tonight in this bar in front of all these people? Because you came after me first. She leans close, speaking softly enough that only he can hear. I was not planning to confront you tonight. I was just gathering information, watching, waiting for the right moment. Then you saw me and decided to make me your entertainment. If I had just ignored you, then we would have had this conversation somewhere else, some other time. The ending would have been the same. The only variable was the audience. The military police burst through the door, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands. The scene that greets them is not what they expected. A woman standing calmly over a pinned Navy SEAL, a veteran weeping silently at a table, 24 witnesses holding phones, every moment preserved in digital memory. Ma'am, step away from the suspect. The woman releases Roderick's arm and raises her hands, moving slowly and deliberately to show she poses no threat. The police secure Roderick, pulling him upright, cuffing his wrists behind his back while he offers no resistance. His eyes never leave the woman who dismantled his world in the space of an evening. That patch, Hart points to the evidence still lying on the counter. That needs to go into official custody. It is connected to Operation Cold March. The lead officer frowns. Cold March? I have never heard of that operation. You would not have. It is classified beyond your clearance level, but I can give you a name to call. Someone who will know exactly what to do with this information. Hart pulls out his phone, scrolls through contacts, and hands it to the officer. On the screen is a number labeled only with 3 letters, DOD. Tell them that Battle Saint found Viper. Tell them that Colonel Hart's daughter finally gets justice. The officer looks from the phone to Hart, to the woman and back again, clearly overwhelmed by circumstances that exceed his training. But he is military, and he knows how to follow orders, even when he does not understand them. We will need statements from everyone present. You will get them. The woman finally allows herself to sit, suddenly exhausted. I have waited 3 years to give my statement. I am not going anywhere. Across the bar, Novak slowly approaches. His face shows the conflict of a man whose beliefs have been shattered, whose loyalty has proven misplaced. He stops a few feet from the woman, struggling to find words. I am sorry. It comes out broken, inadequate. We should have. You spoke up when it would have cost you something. That counts for more than you know. He was my mentor. You thought what you were supposed to think, what he wanted everyone to think. That is not your fault. She looks around the bar at the faces of the young SEALs who had laughed at her, mocked her, filmed her humiliation for their private entertainment. Now they stare back with expressions ranging from shame to shock to cautious respect. All of you learned something tonight. Learned. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. Hart settles into the chair beside her, moving like a man who has finally set down a burden he has carried for far too long. Thank you. The words are simple but weighted with decades of unspoken grief. Whatever happens next, thank you for not giving up. Miranda would not let me give up. Every time I wanted to quit, every time the trail went cold, I would hear her voice telling me to keep going. She was the bravest person I ever knew. She would have been proud to know you continued her mission. I did not do it for pride. I did it because 12 good people died, and the man responsible was living free, while their families had nothing but questions and lies. She turns to watch Roderick being escorted toward the door. Now their families will at least have truth. The night stretches on as statements are taken, evidence is cataloged, and the machinery of military justice begins its slow, grinding work. By dawn, the bar has emptied except for the woman and Hart, 2 survivors of a tragedy that has finally found its reckoning. Hart pours 2 glasses of whiskey, sliding one across the table toward her. To Miranda. To all of them. She lifts the glass but does not drink. 12 names that deserve to be remembered. 12 stories that were never told. You carry them. Every day. She touches the tattoo on her neck, the Roman numeral that started everything. Every mark on my skin is a promise that I will not forget, that I will not let anyone else forget. What happens now? She finally takes a sip of the whiskey, letting its warmth spread through her exhausted body. Now we let the system do what it should have done 3 years ago: investigate, prosecute, provide closure. And you? What will you do? For the first time all night, something like uncertainty crosses her face. She has spent so long hunting that she has nearly forgotten how to do anything else. The purpose that drove her for 3 years has been fulfilled, and what remains is unknown territory. I do not know. The admission costs her more than the entire confrontation. For so long, finding Viper was my only goal. Now that he is found, you rebuild. Hart's voice carries the authority of experience. You mourn properly, for the first time. You let yourself feel things you have been holding back, and eventually, you find a new reason to wake up in the morning. Is that what you did after Miranda? No. He shakes his head slowly. I buried myself in drink and regret. I let the unanswered questions poison every good memory I had of her. I became a ghost haunting places where I used to feel alive. But you are here now. Because of you. Because tonight, for the first time since they told me she was gone, I have something other than pain. He reaches across the table, placing his weathered hand over hers. I have justice. I have truth. I have someone who knew my daughter in her final moments and can tell me she died a hero. She turns her hand over, squeezing his fingers gently. She was always a hero, long before Cold March. The way she looked out for the younger operators, the way she never complained about the hard assignments, the way she made everyone around her believe they could be better than they were. That was Miranda. Hart's voice breaks again, but this time with something almost like joy. That was my girl. The sun begins to rise outside the bar windows, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. A new day, born from a night of revelation and reckoning. The woman who called herself Battle Saint watches the light spread across the horizon and allows herself, for just a moment, to imagine a future without the weight of hunting. But something still nags at the edge of her consciousness. Something Roderick said in those final moments, when desperation stripped away his masks. You cannot prove it was me. Not a denial. An observation about evidence. The words of a man who believes his crimes are concealed well enough to survive scrutiny. The words of a man who might have contingencies in place, fail-safes designed to protect him even if his identity was discovered. She files the thought away, too tired to examine it now but unwilling to forget. The battle may be won, but something tells her the war is far from over. Colonel Hart, please call me Leon. Leon. She savors the informality, the connection it implies. When you talk to your contacts at DoD, ask them about the rest of Cold March. Ask them why the investigation was closed so quickly. Ask them who had the authority to suppress the forensic evidence that should have identified the traitor 3 years ago. Hart's expression sharpens. You think Roderick had protection? I think a lieutenant does not betray a classified unit and evade detection for 3 years without help. I think there are questions beyond the ones we answered tonight. I think Miranda's death might be connected to something larger than one man's treachery. What kind of something? She stands, moving toward the window where the rising sun casts long shadows across the floor. Her silhouette against the light makes her tattoos seem to glow, memorial markers illuminated by the promise of a new day. I do not know yet, but I intend to find out. Hart watches her with eyes that have seen too much suffering to be surprised by anything anymore. He recognizes the look on her face, the set of her shoulders. The hunt is not over. It has merely evolved. Whatever you need, he says quietly. Resources, contacts, a place to stay while you investigate. Anything Miranda would have wanted me to offer, consider it offered. Thank you, Leon. Thank me by finishing what you started, by making sure that everyone who had a hand in my daughter's death faces justice. She turns back to face him, and in the morning light, the Roman numeral on her neck seems almost to shine. That is exactly what I intend to do. The bar falls completely silent. Not the uncomfortable silence of a crowd unsure how to react. This is something deeper. The collective held breath of 20 people who have just witnessed something that rewrites everything they thought they knew. Lieutenant Colonel Leon Hart stands frozen in the middle of the room, his weathered face transformed by an emotion that defies simple description. His eyes remain locked on the woman at the counter, on the broken cross tattoo now fully visible, on the 12 dots that represent 12 lives lost in an operation the world was never supposed to know existed. You. His voice emerges as barely a whisper, cracked and raw. You are Battle Unit 13, the last survivor, the one they said did not exist. Arden meets his gaze without flinching. The mask of controlled neutrality she has worn all evening finally cracks, revealing something vulnerable underneath. Something human. I exist. I have always existed. The records were erased, but I remained. Hart takes a step forward, then another, moving like a man approaching a ghost he never expected to encounter in the land of the living. His hand trembles as he reaches toward her, stopping just short of contact. My daughter, Miranda. She was in that unit. She was one of the 12. His voice breaks on the number. They told me training accident. They told me classified circumstances. They told me to accept and move on. I know. Arden's voice softens for the first time all evening. Miranda sat next to me on the transport. She talked about you constantly. Said her father was the reason she joined the service. Said she wanted to make you proud. A sound escapes Hart that is not quite a sob. His legs give way, and he sinks into the nearest chair as 3 years of suppressed grief finally find release. She made me proud every single day of her life. She made all of us proud in her final moments. Arden moves to kneel beside him, placing her hand over his. When the ambush started, when we realized we had been betrayed, Miranda was the one who kept us fighting. She organized the defensive position. She called for extraction that never came. She held the line while the rest of us tried to find an escape route that did not exist. What happened to her? She saved my life. The words carry weight that bends the air around them. The second wave hit our position. I was pinned down, wounded, out of ammunition. Miranda saw what was happening. She drew enemy fire to give me a chance to move. Her last order was for me to survive, to find out who betrayed us, to make sure their sacrifice meant something. Hart looks up at her with eyes swimming in tears. You honored that order. I tried. For 3 years I have tried. Tonight, I finally succeeded. Across the room, Jack Roderick remains pinned against the bar counter, his arms still twisted at an angle that promises agony if he moves. His face has gone from pale to gray, the arrogance that defined him stripped away to reveal the cornered animal underneath. This proves nothing. His voice comes out strangled, desperate. Stories and tattoos and convenient memories. None of it would hold up in any court. Arden rises slowly, turning to face him with an expression that makes several people step backward. You want proof? She reaches into her jacket pocket, withdrawing a piece of weathered fabric. A military patch, stained and torn, bearing insignia that makes Hart gasp audibly. She places it on the counter beside Roderick's face, forcing him to stare at evidence he thought had been destroyed years ago. I found this on the body of the man who led the ambush team, the man who knew exactly where we would be and exactly when we would arrive. Military forensics matched the DNA on this patch to someone currently serving in the United States Navy. That could be anyone. It could be, but it is not. Arden leans closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. The DNA matches you, Lieutenant Roderick. You were the liaison officer for Cold March. You had access to every operational detail. You transmitted our position to hostile forces and watched from safety while 12 good soldiers walked into a trap you designed. The room erupts. Voices overlapping, chairs scraping, bodies moving toward exits or toward Roderick depending on their inclinations. Patterson, the bartender, has already called military police. The young SEALs who laughed at Arden hours ago now stare at their former mentor with expressions ranging from horror to murderous rage. Lies. Roderick's denial carries no conviction. All lies. She is making this up to cover her own guilt. She was the one who survived. Maybe she was the traitor. Maybe she sold out her own unit and has been looking for someone to blame ever since. Hart rises from his chair, moving toward Roderick with the deliberate pace of a man who has finally found the target of 3 years of unresolved fury. My daughter mentioned her liaison officer in her letters, said he was efficient, professional, said she felt confident that their coordination was in good hands. He stops directly in front of Roderick, close enough that their breath mingles. She trusted you, and you murdered her. I did not murder anyone. I was not even in the country when Cold March happened. No. You were safe in an operations center, watching satellite feeds while my daughter bled out in a desert thousands of miles away. Hart's voice has gone cold, controlled, more terrifying than any shout. You did not pull the trigger. You just told the enemy exactly where to aim. The sound of sirens grows in the distance. Military police responding to Patterson's call, approaching with urgency that suggests they understand this is more than a typical bar disturbance. Arden addresses the room, her voice carrying to every corner. I did not come here tonight planning to confront him. I came because I received intelligence that Viper frequented this establishment. I wanted to observe, to confirm, to gather additional evidence before making my move. Then why reveal yourself now? Novak, the young SEAL who spoke up earlier, asks the question everyone is thinking. Because he forced my hand, because he saw me and decided I would make good entertainment for his ego, because he could not resist demonstrating his dominance over a woman he assumed was beneath him. She looks down at Roderick with something that might be pity. Your arrogance was always your weakness. Miranda noted it in her letters. She said Viper seemed too confident, too certain that nothing could touch him. She said it made her nervous. Miranda did not know anything. Miranda knew enough to suspect, and I have spent 3 years turning her suspicion into certainty. The military police burst through the door, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands that echo off the walls. They secure Roderick with efficient brutality, pulling him upright, cuffing his wrists behind his back while he offers protests that no one acknowledges. As they drag him toward the exit, he twists to look back at Arden one final time. This is not over. I have friends, powerful friends. Whatever evidence you think you have, it will disappear. You will disappear. Cold March will stay buried and no one will ever know what really happened. Arden watches him go with an expression that suggests she has heard similar threats before and remains unimpressed. The truth does not disappear. It waits. It finds cracks in the walls built to contain it, and eventually it brings those walls down. The door closes behind him, cutting off whatever response he might have offered. Hart approaches her with tears still streaming down his weathered face. He takes her hands in his, gripping with fierce tenderness. Thank you. The words are simple but weighted with decades of unspoken grief. Whatever happens next, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for honoring my daughter's last order. Thank you for bringing her killer to justice. The justice is not complete. Roderick did not act alone. Someone protected him for 3 years. Someone with enough power to bury evidence and close investigations before they could find traction. Then we find them too. We? Hart squeezes her hands tighter. Miranda was my daughter. The 12 soldiers who died with her were her family. That makes them my family too. Whatever you need, resources, contacts, a partner who understands what this mission costs, consider it offered. A young officer approaches, the same seriousness in her bearing that marks everyone who has witnessed tonight's revelation. Ma'am, we will need a formal statement. The commander has been notified. There are people who want to speak with you about Cold March. I have been waiting 3 years to give my statement. They can have all the time they need. If you have been moved by this story of sacrifice and justice, please share this video. The fallen deserve to have their story told. Like and subscribe to honor those who never came home. The next several hours blur together in a cascade of interviews, evidence documentation, and the slow grinding machinery of military justice finally engaging with a case it should have solved years ago. Dawn breaks over the naval base as Arden finishes her final statement, her voice hoarse but steady, her resolve undiminished by exhaustion. Hart waits for her outside the interview room, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offers one without speaking, and they walk together toward a small courtyard where morning light paints everything in shades of gold and rose. They found the bodies. His voice carries news he has been holding since the early hours. All 12 of them, buried in a location that Roderick disclosed during his initial interrogation. They are arranging transport. Miranda will be home by the end of the week. Arden stops walking. The coffee cup trembles in her hand. Home. Proper burial, full military honors, everything she deserved and was denied. Hart turns to face her, and for the first time since they met, something like peace softens his features. Because of you. Because you refused to let them be forgotten. I could not forget them. She touches the tattoo at her neck, the Roman numeral that started everything. Every morning I wake up and see their marks on my skin. Every night I go to sleep hearing their voices. They have been with me every moment of the past 3 years. That is why you got the tattoos? To remember? To remember. To honor. To carry them with me into whatever future I manage to survive toward. She rolls up her sleeve, exposing the full tapestry of ink that covers her arm. Not to show off, not to intimidate, just to make sure that no matter what happened, no matter how successfully someone tried to erase them from history, 12 soldiers would continue to exist as long as I continued to breathe. Hart studies the marks with new understanding. Each line, each symbol, each carefully placed memorial suddenly resolves into something sacred rather than decorative. Miranda would have appreciated that. Miranda would have told me I was being dramatic. She always said I took everything too seriously. A ghost of a smile crosses Arden's face. She was probably right. But some things deserve to be taken seriously. Some sacrifices deserve witnesses who refuse to look away. They find a bench in the courtyard and sit together, watching the base come alive around them as a new day begins. The coffee grows cold in their hands, but neither moves to drink it. The moment feels too fragile for practical concerns. What happens now? Hart asks the question that has been hovering unspoken between them. Now we let the system do what it should have done 3 years ago. Investigate properly, prosecute fully, provide the closure that 12 families have been denied. And after that, Arden is quiet for a long moment, considering a future she has barely allowed herself to imagine. For 3 years, finding Viper consumed every aspect of her existence. Now that the hunt has ended, she faces the terrifying prospect of having to build a life that does not revolve around vengeance. I do not know. The admission cost her more than the entire confrontation. For so long, this mission was everything. Now that it is complete, I find myself standing at the edge of territory I have never mapped. Then we map it together. Hart places his hand over hers on the bench. Whatever you decide to do, wherever you decide to go, you do not have to face it alone. Miranda sent you to find justice. She did not send you to destroy yourself in the process. How do you know what she intended? Because I knew my daughter. She believed in duty, in honor, in fighting for what was right. But she also believed in living, in finding joy where you could, in building connections that would sustain you through the darkness. His grip tightens. She would want you to survive. Really survive, not just exist between missions. Arden looks at him, at this man who lost his daughter to the same betrayal that nearly destroyed her, and feels something shift in her chest. A loosening of armor she did not realize she was still wearing. A first tentative step toward becoming someone other than Battle Saint. I would like that. Her voice comes out smaller than she intends. I think I would like not being alone. The sun rises higher, burning away the last traces of night. Somewhere on the base, Roderick sits in a cell contemplating the collapse of everything he built on treachery and blood. Somewhere in offices and conference rooms, investigators are building a case that will end careers and possibly lives. Somewhere, 12 families are receiving news that their loved ones have finally been found. But here, in this courtyard, 2 survivors of Cold March sit in companionable silence and allow themselves to imagine a future that includes something other than pain. Arden touches the tattoo at her neck, tracing the Roman numeral with her fingertip. The ink feels different now, lighter somehow, as if the weight it carried has been redistributed across shoulders stronger than her own. I used to wonder if they could see me. Her voice comes out soft, almost fragile. The 12. I used to wonder if they watched from wherever they went, judging whether I was doing enough, whether I was worthy of being the one who survived. Hart does not respond immediately. He lets the silence hold her words, giving them space to breathe. And now? Now I think they were never watching to judge. They were watching to wait, waiting for me to finish what we started together. Colonel Hart. A young officer approaches, her expression carrying weight that immediately sharpens both their attention. We have received information from the ongoing investigation. Lieutenant Roderick has begun cooperating in exchange for consideration during sentencing. What kind of information? He claims he was not the architect of Cold March. He says he was recruited by someone higher in the intelligence community. Someone who convinced him that Bravo 13 had been compromised and that the ambush was necessary to contain a larger threat. Arden rises from the bench. Does he have a name? Only a code designation, Ghost Architect. He says they communicated exclusively through encrypted channels and intermediaries. He never saw their face or heard their voice directly. Convenient? That was our assessment as well. However, he has provided coordinates, financial records, communication logs, enough to suggest that Cold March was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern of compromised operations spanning at least 7 years. Hart stands beside Arden, his expression hardening. You are saying there are more traitors? We are saying that the investigation has expanded significantly. Whatever you uncovered last night may be the beginning of something much larger. The officer hands Arden a sealed envelope before departing. Inside, she finds a single sheet of paper covered in text that makes her breath catch. What does it say? Hart leans closer, trying to read over her shoulder. Coordinates, a timeline, and a message. She reads aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. The network you exposed has 17 nodes. Roderick was node 4. Follow the money to find the architect. Tower 4 sends regards. Tower 4? What does that mean? I do not know. But someone out there knows what I have been doing and wants to help. Or wants me to think they want to help. She folds the paper carefully, tucking it into her jacket alongside the memories of everyone who brought her to this moment. The hunt for Viper is over. But the war, it seems, has merely entered a new phase. Hart watches her process the information, reading in her expression the conflict between exhaustion and duty. You do not have to do this alone anymore. No. She turns to face him with eyes that have finally found peace amid the storm. I do not. The courtyard fills with morning activity around them, sailors and officers moving through routines that seem impossibly normal after the night's revelations. Life continues, indifferent to the upheaval that has shattered so many certainties. A pair of young enlisted men walk past, their conversation halting when they notice Arden. Word has spread quickly through the base. The woman with the tattoos, the one who exposed the traitor, Battle Saint. They nod respectfully before continuing on their way, their voices dropping to whispers that carry fragments of awe and disbelief. You are going to have to get used to that. Hart observes the interaction with something approaching amusement. Being recognized, being known. I did not do this for recognition. I know. That is precisely why you deserve it. Miranda used to say something. Hart's voice carries the weight of memory. When things got hard, when the mission seemed impossible, she would remind herself why she started. She would say that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else is more important. She said that to me once, the night before Cold March. I asked her if she was scared of what we were walking into. She smiled and said she was terrified. But she said being afraid of dying was less important than being worthy of living. That was my girl. That was our leader. Arden straightens her shoulders, drawing on reserves that should have been depleted hours ago. And she would tell us that the mission is not complete until every threat has been neutralized. Roderick was one node. 16 remain. Then we find them. We find them all. She walks toward the building where investigators wait with more questions, more forms, more of the endless bureaucracy that transforms justice from concept to reality. Hart falls into step beside her, two soldiers who have found in each other the partnership that survival requires. At the entrance, she pauses and looks back at the courtyard one final time. The sun has risen fully now, bathing everything in light that seems almost too bright, too clean for a world that contains such darkness. Leon. Yes? Thank you for believing me, for standing beside me when you had every reason to doubt. I did not believe you because you were convincing. He holds the door open for her. I believed you because when you spoke my daughter's name, I could see her reflection in your eyes. Whatever else you are, Battle Saint, you are someone who loved the people you lost, and that kind of love does not lie. I am just the one who survived to tell their story. Arden pauses at the threshold, her voice carrying the weight of 12 lives entrusted to her memory. Nothing more, nothing less. But I will make sure that story echoes until every last person responsible has answered for what they did. She passes through the doorway into the fluorescent-lit corridor beyond, carrying with her the weight of 12 lives and the promise of justice still incomplete. Behind her, the sun continues its climb. Before her, the hunt continues. Somewhere, Ghost Architect waits in shadows, unaware that the woman who destroyed Viper has just learned of their existence. The war is far from over. But for the first time in 3 years, Arden Vale faces it with allies at her side and hope in her heart. Justice is not loud. She speaks the words to the memory of 12 soldiers who deserved better. To the daughter Heart will finally lay to rest with full honors to herself. It is patient, and Battle Saint has learned patience very, very well.
Every soldier carry a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.